Hey cookers, we got another 30-minute meal coming here. This is going to be, well, I don't know what you call it. Pork fried rice or stir-fried pork. It's really kind of a combination of the two. It goes back to an experience I had a long time ago. But first, let's get this thing started. I got 30 minutes on the timer on my nuker. Let me press start. Alright, so that started. So this is just a pork steak. You can get these at Aldi. They usually come in a package of 3. If you're lucky, they're boneless. And these are boneless, so that's a good thing. Look at that, I'm hitting that bowl of eggs with my knife. The story behind this is back in the early 90s, late 80s, in Wilmington, Delaware, I worked for DuPont. And in a back alley off of 8th Street, it's like at the corner of 8th and Walnut, or 8th and Market, or maybe 9th and Market, was a hole-in-the-wall place that we just called June's. And there was no sign or anything like that. She had a screen door, and you'd go in, and inevitably there was a waiting line. And there's a little old Japanese lady named June. And she would custom cook these bowls. And that's what I'm going to call it, a pork bowl, for lack of a better term. And she would custom cook these things. You could have pork, or you could have chicken, or beef, or shrimp, or whatever. And you would tell her what vegetables you want, or whatever, and she'd have 5, 6, 7 skillets going at the same time. Let me wash my hands real quick. So I'm going to marinate this pork. Thankfully, pork marinates very, very quickly. This is just soy sauce here. Put a good bit of soy sauce in there. Maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons, because that's a decent sized piece of pork. And then just some granulated garlic. We don't need salt because of the soy sauce is there. And then some pepper. This is maybe a tablespoon of pepper and a tablespoon of garlic. And then I was going to put something else in there. I don't remember what it was. Oh, ginger. Ginger for me can be a bit overbearing, and I'm sure it is for some of you. So I just put maybe a teaspoon of ginger in there. I don't want a lot of ginger. I don't want it to overrun the flavor of things, because that's the problem. You put too much ginger in there, and all you taste is ginger. And what I really want is just a hint of ginger on this pork. Now, pork marinades very, very quickly, okay? So I'm not real worried about that. But you would go in there and talk to June, and she'd say, well, you want pork, shrimp, chicken, blah, blah, blah. What vegetables do you want? Inevitably, she was putting squash on your bowl. Whether you wanted squash or not, you're getting squash. So I'm just prepping some of these vegetables real quick. Let me turn this pan up to sear. Let it get hot. So this is a little bit of zucchini, I'm sorry. Zucchini, squash, whatever. Here we go. I'm going to set that aside. Let me peel this carrot. I'm going to step off camera and peel this over the sink. There we go. I'm going to cut the end off of that. Cut the end off of that. Throw that in the sink. What I like to do is just slice it right down the middle so it lays flat like that, and then just thin slice this carrot. I don't like big pieces of vegetables in my stir fry. So there's that. Let me come back along this way. Just cut this at an angle. Cut it fairly thin. Like that. That's good. Let me grab, got a couple of stalks of celery there. And I prefer my celery to be relatively small, not too small, not too big. There's the celery. Let me get this bell pepper in here. I just trim this bell pepper down like this. And then cut the cap off. And then let's just cut this bell pepper in strips. Alright, that pan's starting to get hot. So what I'm going to do here is I've got a couple of eggs that I'm going to scramble up here. There's one. There's a couple of eggs. Let me scramble them up. Now that pan is good and hot now. And what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of that avocado oil, put it in there. I use the avocado oil because it handles the heat so well. And then let me get this a real good scramble going here. Let's get some air up in those eggs. Like that. There we go. Let's scramble those eggs. Those eggs cooked up very, very quick. That's what I wanted. And I'm just going to put these eggs right back into that bowl. Just like that. And now, I'm not worried about the raw egg because everything's going to go back in this skillet very, very quickly. Alright, so this heat induction turned off because that was gone. So, now I'm going to take some more of that avocado oil, maybe about 2 tablespoons there. Get it back in here. Let's get that very, very hot. And I'm just going to fold this pork right down in there. I want to let this sear and get very nicely seared. Now a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'll use like a leftover pork roast. A leftover pork roast just does a great job in there. So while that's still cooking, let me slice up the rest of these peppers like that. There we go. Let me throw these eggshells in the trash. I knew I'd forgotten something, and it was onion. So let me clean this onion real quick. Not a big deal. Cut the caps off of it. Split it in half. Peel the skin off. There's one half. Now you can see this. This here is really starting to sear up a bit. Let's let it cook off some of that moisture. I really want it to sear and get darkly seared. So how are we doing on time? Got about 16 minutes left. A little hot in my kitchen. So let's see how this pork is doing. A little brown. I want to let this sear well before I start stirring it. So let's let it go for a few more minutes. Alright, so let's take a look at this pork. Yeah, that's looking good. Let's just let this thing brown and sear this pork well. These vegetables don't take long. So let's just let this pork turn brown. Alright, so let's take a look at this again. Stir it up some more. Yeah, some of that pork is starting to get nice and brown and dark. Let's give this a couple more minutes. Alright, let's give this a final stir. That is sizzling and hot. Everything I'm looking for. Right there, we got a little bit of brown stuff on the bottom, and that's okay. So let's take this pork and put it right into this bowl. Okay. And now I'm going to take all of these vegetables, and I'm going to put it right down in here. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of sesame oil. It's about 1.5 tablespoons of sesame oil. And this is a 1/2 stick of butter. And I am just going to stir fry this. Stir it up good. Let's get that butter down in there. And get these vegetables cooking. They do not have to cook a lot. While those vegetables are coming up to heat, let me chop up these green onions. Just cut the caps off of them here, like that. And then just, so I can miss a little bit of that one. There we go. You could use more green onions if you like, but that's fine. Let's give these a stir here. Okay, let's set these green onions aside. And broccoli. So I'm not going to use all this broccoli. There we go. Now, a lot of people like their broccoli in large pieces. You find that often when you eat at Oriental restaurants. I do not. I like my broccoli in very small pieces. I don't care too much for the stem of the broccoli. I prefer mostly just the florets. There we go. That's about the way I like my broccoli. Let me add that to the pan. Now, some people they like their vegetables pretty raw. I like mine to cook a little more. So let's see how quickly this stuff comes back up. 5 minutes. It's gonna be close. Yeah, those onions are starting to look good. The vegetables are starting to get cooked a little bit. They don't need to be cooked a lot. Just tender. Well, a little crispy, crunchy. That's looking really, really good right there. So now let me add some of this rice in here. It's best to have kind of day-old rice. I don't want to put too much in here. That should be plenty of rice. Let me start stirring that around down in there. Look at that. Now June, when she was cooking this for you, she would ask you, what kind of sauce you want? And often, you know, it was teriyaki, or it was stir fry, or it was oyster sauce, and I always loved oyster sauce. Karin doesn't care for oyster sauce too much, so what I like to do when cooking this with her is throw a little more soy sauce down in here, not a lot, and then this Kikkoman stir fry sauce. Karin really enjoys the Kikkoman stir fry sauce. So just put a little bit in there, not the whole bottle. And let's give that a stir. Yeah, see the rice and the vegetables will start taking on that stir fry and the soy sauce, but yet still not look like it's just caked in stir fry and soy sauce. There we go. Let's let that cook a little more. You know, that just is so pretty and just absolutely beautiful. Looks so good. So now I'm going to take these eggs and I'm going to add these eggs to this. Break them up a bit. And then I'm going to add this pork in here. There we go, all those juices from the pork. That should be delicious. And just stir all this in. That looks really, really good. I like the way that looks. So now I'm going to take my green onions and just stir them in right here at the very end, like that. Listen to that sizzle. So sometimes when June would cook this, she'd let it get brown and crusty on the bottom, and that always just turned out just really, really good. I think my 30 minutes are up. Let me just press stop here. Let me take this plate right here. Turn this cooker off. There we go. There we go. Hey Karin, you want to try this? How does it smell?
Oh, delicious. It smells like a Chinese restaurant in here.
Okay. Won't you hold that plate?
I'll hold the plate.
And I got you a fork right here. Let's do this over the camera a little bit so people can see. All right, just hold it up over here. So what you think?
Well, it looks delicious. Let's see how this tastes. It's butter hot.
Why is it hot?
Well, it was made with heat.
Oh, it just come out of the skillet.
Yes.
So how's the pork?
Delicious, very tender, very flavorful. This is good.
Is there too much ginger in it?
Not at all.
Well, I guess...
I'm gonna go in and investigate further.
Okay. Y'all have a good evening. Have fun. Try this. 30 minutes. Pork fried rice, stirred fried pork, what you want to call it, pork bowl, Oriental pork bowl. I don't know. Share it with your friends, somebody you think that might enjoy this. Your family's going to love it. Have fun.